Week 8, it's nice knowing you. Painted in orange on Monday night, the Cleveland Browns left no doubt against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Browns came into this one off 4 consecutive losses and looked like a playoff team, running the ball effectively on the ground behind the efforts of Nick Chubb, 23 totes for a bucko, 2 rushing touchdowns as well. Jacoby Brissett found his top target in Amari Cooper, went there 5 times for a $131. Remember, 5 is an interesting number there because he was just worth a 5th-round pick to the Dallas Cowboys a year ago, but it's 131 here in primetime, a receiving touchdown as well. Joe Burrow still empty against the Cleveland Browns, now 0-4 in his career. It's 5 straight for the Brownies against the Bengals, those 5 games in a row. The longest such win streak against a single opponent since the Browns re-entered the league in 1999. All right, let's break this one down with the 2-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden. B-Mac, how's the saying go? It's everybody's got a plan until you got punched in the mouth. And it was the Browns doing the punch-in tonight. Cincinnati on the wrong end of that business plan. I mean, this is a Browns team coming off 4 consecutive losses. To put forth this sort of effort on both sides of the ball, how surprised were you, and how did they get it done?
I was surprised. I felt like the sense of urgency would be there for the Cleveland Browns, knowing the skid that they were currently on. But finding a way to dominate a team at home in your division was very, very important. And I felt like the Cincinnati Bengals lost this ball game, the momentum, rather. The first drive drove the length of the football field, that tip pass that led to an interception. When that happened, it seemed like Cleveland captured the momentum. They never let it go. We saw big-time plays for the big 3 from Cleveland offensively. Jacoby Brissett, huge day. Amari Cooper, huge day. Nick Chubb, huge day. All 3 guys played a big-time part in the success for their offense. And then when you transition to the defensive side, Joe, I mean, in the trenches, Myles Garrett and crew dominated, right? They made this offensive line unit look like the unit from a year ago. Joe Burrow was never comfortable. They sacked him 5 times. They put pressure on him. They had him moving around, running for his life. He never seemed to be able to get into rhythm with his offense, and we saw that from start to finish.
Yeah, I want to talk about some of these things, the individual performances, the offensive line here for Cincinnati, but I think it does beg the question as well. How did you see the omission of Jamar Chase affecting what this offense was able to do? Those wideouts on the outside for Cincinnati, still really good. You saw them make some tough catches in traffic, but the momentum, as you said, never there. What does Chase allow you to get to that maybe Cincinnati couldn't get to in this one?
When you have Jamar Chase on the football field, he opens up other opportunities for the other pass catchers. And one thing about Jamar Chase, he might not be known to be the Tyreek Hill of the NFL in regards to speed, but he is a big-time playmaker. We oftentimes see him get behind coverage because of his speed and just how explosive he is. When he's not there, the fear factor is no longer there in regards to how defenders cover the pass catchers for the Cincinnati Bengals. So now you see more confident guys in the back end being able to be in the hip pocket of these pass catchers. Yes, we did see a big time pass for T. Higgins, but outside of that, he didn't really do a lot. So this offense is not the same. We felt like it would be a few steps behind not having Jamar Chase, but I thought we would see some type of chemistry eventually in this ball game. And the unfortunate part for the Cincinnati Bengals, I think he will be out for another, 3 or 4 weeks, if that. So they better get used to life without Jamar Chase because he won't be returning anytime soon. And they still have a lot of big-time ball games left to be played.
Yeah, it was tabbed as 4 to 6 weeks, but they did not place him on injured reserve, which obviously indicates that there's hope that he'll be on the short side of that 4 to 6. But unless the young man was going to line up at left tackle tonight, I'm not sure this outcome would be a whole lot different than what we saw. Let's talk about that offensive line for Cincinnati because it was 7 sacks in week 1 and a loss, 6 sacks in week 2 and a loss. And then they figured it out. 2 sacks, 1 sack, 2 sack, 3 sacks, and 3 sacks. But here, like you said, they regressed to sort of that squad that we saw last year and early in this one. That type of regression at this point in the season, how troubling is that to see from the guys up front here in Cincinnati?
It can be very, very troubling because that was their Achilles heel last year, but they were able to weather the storm and still found a way to win ball games, of course, to get into the tournament. But now, seeing what you also have going on with the offense, not having your top playmaker, your offensive line, they have to do a better job. Because not having Jamar Chase in the lineup, it's imperative, Joe, for them to find a way to run the football. So pass protecting is not just the issue for Cincinnati's offensive line unit. They can't run block as well. I mean, Joe Mixon, once again, was more of a contributor catching the football than running the football. So they have to find a way to be a stout unit in the trenches, not just in protecting their quarterback, but also opening running opportunities for their running back in Joe Mixon. If they don't, they will be one-dimensional like they were tonight, and they won't be successful in doing so.
Joe Burrow, when sacked 4 or more times in his career, 2, 10, and 1. That is the line of demarcation. 4 or more, they lose. You keep it under that 4, and they win a whole lot of ball games here with Joe Cool at the helm. Was not the case on Monday night. But let's get back on the winning side of this conversation, because the Jacoby Brissett experience appears to be coming to a close here in the next month or so, with Deshaun Watson waiting in the wings for his suspension to be up and get under center. What did tonight do for a guy like Jacoby Brissett, who's always looking for work around the league, to put what he did on tape, in primetime, in the division, in a lone spot here, Halloween night, everybody watching? What did this tell you about Jacoby Brissett and his future in this league, perhaps?
I mean, he's a fighter. He's a fighter. I think we all realize that he is a backup quarterback, but given the opportunity, he can win ball games for you. This was a huge confidence booster for Jacoby Brissett as an individual, and also for the Browns organization, because as you mentioned, Joe, we're still pretty much almost a month away from the return of Deshaun Watson. But with that being said, seeing how the window of opportunity is still there in their division, the AFC North, if Jacoby Brissett can continue to play smart, sound football. Number one, his offensive linemen, they did a real good job tonight in protecting him. Remember the last 2 ball games, they surrendered 9 sacks in the last 2 ball games before tonight's matchup. What they did tonight, only got touched 2 times. Outside of that, he was extremely comfortable. And because how comfortable he was in the pocket, 278 yards, 1 throwing, 1 running. Those are really efficient numbers. So for him, this was just being able to showcase what type of player he can be at the quarterback position when given the opportunity and given time. Now you look at the next 3 ball games they have coming up. You got to travel to Miami, you got to travel to Buffalo, you got Tampa coming at home, and then you have the return of Deshaun Watson with Houston. So the next 3 ball games can pretty much tell you, will they have a legit shot to fight for a playoff spot when Deshaun Watson returns, or will they be on the outside looking in? But tonight was a huge step in trying to be inside that conversation as well in regards to playoff opportunities.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Box score, scoreboard, eye test. This one was slanted to Cleveland throughout. Bryant McFadden, another week in the books as Week 8 is behind us. We appreciate you, as always, for stopping by.
Yes, sir.
And there's always more BMAC to be had. Download, subscribe, and enjoy the premier podcast in all of the NFL. It's All Things Covered, with P2 and BMAC sitting down with some of the biggest names in sports and entertainment week in and week out for can't-miss conversations. Don't worry, we got all things covered.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.